I shouldn't be laughing, but I am. TBH, the child had it coming. Non-Americans of Reddit, what confuses you the most about America? Why is there space under the bathroom stalls? I was at a wedding once and my friend was taking a shit and some small child tried to crawl through the space under the stall wall and my friend was so shocked he reflexively kicked the child's face. I shouldn't be laughing, but I am. To be honest, the child had it coming. Why everybody when talking about income calculates how much a person makes in a year instead of monthly like we do in my country? Just convention. It's how we are used to hearing about it. Also, different jobs pay differently. So I get a check every month, but I think my dad gets one every other week. Some people get them weekly, others on other schedules. Discussing it by year makes it pretty easy to divide up by your own pay periods. Edit. Since some people have asked, I don't get a physical paycheck. I used it as a kind of legacy term. I get the money deposited in my account, but in my mind it's my paycheck. Also, taxes are done by yearly earnings. Should I take off my shoes or not? Look at your host's feet. Next time a friend comes over, I'm only going to take off one shoe. Hop around on the sock foot. If they ask why, just say, well, what if we need to go out back? From England here. I grew up in a county called West Yorkshire, a semi-rural, semi-urban, working-class county which, along with the rest of Yorkshire, seems completely unique when compared to the other English counties. There is so much slang, grouped and contracted contractions, wouldn't, won't, shouldn't, shan't, and the accent here isn't always understandable. Yorkshire slang, especially that spoken by the older generations, sounds and looks like a completely different language, even more so when spelt phonetically. It never ceases to amaze me how easy it is to understand the majority of Americans. They speak with so much clarity, non-specific slang, and the accent just helps. It reminds me of the news reporters. If you look at a dialect map of American English, you'll find a dialect known as the Midlands dialect can be further divided into North Midland and South Midland. The Midland dialect is what you'd find in large swaths of the Midwest, roughly Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska. The North Midland dialect, found mostly in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, outside the Chicago area, and down into southern Iowa, northern Missouri, and parts of Kansas, is considered by many linguists to be one of the most neutral English language accents. This means that it is the accent most readily understood by a non-speaker. You could take someone from Indianapolis, for example, and drop them into almost any English-speaking country on earth. Our traveling Hoosier, someone from Indiana, may not understand his bartender in Glasgow, his taxi driver in Auckland, or his hotel clerk in Johannesburg, due to regional dialects. However, the bartender, taxi driver, and hotel clerk should have no problems understanding him. For years, news networks and Hollywood voice coaches trained newscasters and actors to speak with a Midlands accent due to understandable nature of the dialect. I don't know if this is just about America or most first world countries, but why is living with your parents a bad thing or laughable? Because for the longest you could, and so it became an expectation. Post-World War II there were well-paying jobs everywhere, and land was cheap and abundant. Nowadays it's a little different. Cost of living is higher, so it's more commonplace to live with roommates for an extended period of time, and it's also more common to move back in with parents at some point. It's still considered sort of shameful, but lots of people end up doing it, so it's not as big of a deal. I think in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, it's more common to stay with your parents into your 20s. In the Middle East, it's until you get married where you move out usually. So mid-20s for a guy, early 20s for a girl usually. It confuses me how come American-style homes are so tidy outside. I am always amazed when I use Google Street View to stroll around some random road in the US. I wonder why and how the houses and backyards look so clean, with newly mown Bermuda grass and well-painted roofs and walls. I can't help but compare this to my country, which is a developing one. I'm thinking what's wrong with our citizens such that when I use Street View on our streets, they're usually filthy. Ordinary American-style homes can only be found in high-class villages and subdivisions here. Edit. Corrected fourth word in the second paragraph from by to but. It really depends of the area of America. The poorer neighborhoods are a lot messier. At least when I was growing up, there were many homes where the outside would be messy and the inside would be immaculate. People in working poor neighborhoods don't want to advertise that they have things. Tax not being included on prices in shops. Edit. A lot of Americans have explained this to me. It actually makes perfect sense. See the replies below, if you're curious. Often, the pre-tax price is negotiated by the manufacturer or distributor. Since tax varies from place to place, this would mean a different sticker price if tax were included. Not to mention that on some products, the price is directly printed on the packaging. Arizona tea. There are also tax-free organizations that can flash a card at any retail store and the taxes aren't tacked on at all. How nice and chatty they are really. I think that was the most striking for me living there. It's so easy to start talking to an American, you just have to be within their sight basically. They move a lot so it's less likely that everyone has their established group of friends and family and minds their own business. They're all at ease branching out and meeting new people. They are also quite considerate. I realized how inconsiderate I was because I wasn't used to things like being spatially aware or thinking of others' comfort. Not that I did anything horrible, but it was American small gestures of mindfulness that got me thinking. I had a girl apologizing to me for smoking outside a few good meters away from me. People walk in a way that is mindful of the crowd. I think I learned proper walking in NYC, after which many other places in the world irritated the shit out of me with people who just randomly stop in front of you or on an escalator, or don't respect the order of getting in and out of a metro. But I never even thought about these things before. They're also kind of unassuming because there's so many people from different places in one place that it's much harder to make quick judgments about which type is who. I think they also do force eccentricity a bit. It's quite superficial, but just saying it's less likely anyone will think of you as weird for anything. As someone from India, the possibilities many Americans feel they have is both confusing to me and admirable. I'm 28 and I already feel the rest of my life is going to work on a rigid schedule. Most people here have very less risk-taking ability. But I read of American stories like this guys who worked as a masseur for a year, then as a swimming coach, then suddenly got into law school and become a lawyer. After hitting his 40s, he got interested in programming, so he became a programmer. Reading biographies of famous American businessmen brings out many such stories. Someday I'm going to open a pie shop just because I can. Sometimes when I think about what freedom means, that's what I think of. If I wanted to, I can go and open a pie shop. Would it be successful? I don't know. But I'd have a little fun for a while. Mainly just the culture shock, I guess. Being Greek, we are some pretty opinionated, loud and blunt people, and if you ask a Greek how they're doing, get ready to actually hear how they're doing. In America, if someone asks how you are, you must reply I'm good/fine regardless how you're actually feeling. I feel like in America you also have to kinda sugarcoat how you speak, not to everyone but a lot. In Greece, we won't hesitate to call you fat or ugly if that's what we really think, but in America that's a no-no. You must be polite even if it may not be necessarily true. Also, smiling seems like a big deal in America. But this is just my perspective dealing with Americans. When my grandparents first came to America in 2004, they were pretty shocked that you can pay for gas at the gas pump. And my grandparent really loved CC's Pizza and requested to eat there at least once a week when they would come to the US. I actually think it's a misconception that you have to say I'm good when people ask you how you're doing in America. It's fine to give a negative answer, it's just that you're supposed to realize that how are you is a casual question and usually isn't an invitation for an extended conversation. For example, if you answered, I'm super tired, I got terrible sleep last night, that's totally normal and you might have some small talk about why you weren't able to sleep or something. On the other hand, if you launch into a long story about how you got into a fight with your significant other or something, it's like, come on, read the room. I just wanted to get a sense of how your day is going. That being said, I think we value positivity, and if you always answer how are you with something negative or neutral, you may not be so popular. It's been a long time, but I remember thinking how weird the menu choices were in restaurants, especially in LA. Like the options were either super healthy or super unhealthy. You couldn't have a mid-range meal. One restaurant in particular, pretty much everything was deep fried unless you wanted a salad. We have so many restaurants that most specialize. If you want a salad, you go to the place with good salads, and if you want a burger, you go to the place with good burgers. Also, I think places with huge, varied menus are dying out mostly because it costs a lot of money to maintain the food inventory necessary for 50 different dishes and thus need to have a huge volume of sales to make it worth it. On why they use Imperial over metric system. All the important things here use the metric system. Hospitals, scientists, vehicle repair. We basically just measure our distance and weight in Imperial units. The vast majority of commercial aircraft, including Boeing and Airbus, are Imperial SI. You would imagine Airbus, at the very least, would be metric. My toolbox is entirely SI, which is more expensive and harder to find in Europe. Took me a while to get used to it when I started as an apprentice. Especially when my boss would fuck with me while we were installing something big, like a main landing gear. He'd scream at me for a 44/64 of an inch spanner and yell like a drill instructor, while I did the maths in my head and, hopefully, grabbed the correct 11/16 of an inch spanner. He'll be retiring in the next few years. I'm honestly gonna miss the guy. 2 fucking political parties for 320+ million people. You have 30 more NFL teams than political parties. 52 more flavors of Ben & Jerry's. You have 4 main Kardashians, 1 forgotten about Kardashian and 2 half Kardashians. And still only 2 political parties. I open at least 8 different porn videos each time I jerk off because I find it hard to settle on one kink. Your feet fetishists, furries, not my sister, MILF, Latina, anal, threesomes, cuck, interracial, pizza delivery/plumber, and good old-fashioned missionary fans all have to squeeze under one of 2 banners politically. There's actually way more political parties, however most people end up voting either Democratic or Republican. Due to how the system is set, if you do vote for one of the other parties, called a third party, it's highly unlikely that they will win. Because of this, you're more or less forced to vote for the next best one that fits your views better. Thanks for watching this video, my lovelies. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will be meeting next time.